All right, we will call to order the Brainerd Park Board meeting. City Hall, 501 Laurel Street, Council Chambers, Tuesday, June 28, 2022 at 4 p.m. Roll call.
Tim Boder, Kara Schaefer,
Yes.
Andrew Scheip,
Here.
Kevin Yeager,
Yes.
Troy Rushmeyer.
Yes. Okay, need a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So move, Yeager.
I have a motion.
Second shape.
Second, Shipe. Any further discussion? All approve? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None being heard. Approval of the agenda carries. Consent calendar. Notice to public, all matters listed are considered routine by the board and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion, which I believe covers approval of minutes and approval of disbursements, does it not?
I think the financial reports.
And the financial reports. Yeah. All right. Let's get it going.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Let's start with, get there eventually. Presentation by the Lions Club. Jennifer, are you? Nope. Okay. Sign language so well.
Go ahead.
We both can. I'm Mike LaFlex, president of the Brainerd Lions Club.
I'm David Call. I'm the gambling manager for the Brainerd Lions. And we're here because we're working with the Park and Rec Department, have been for a number of years, on Brainerd Lions Park, which is up on Buffalo Hills. And we know that there's a plan to put in some handicapped accessible playground equipment. And we've been helping to drive the funds for that. And we're trying to figure out where that is on the calendar. Because we're coming up on the end of our year, and we can either give money to Parks and Rec if that's going to happen this year. Otherwise, we'd like to divert the money to some other worthy causes and be back next year to help fund that project.
We had heard that it was kind of set for the year 2026, and we would give more money now if you guys could look at, or if it would be possible to move the date up to maybe next spring or even next summer of putting that equipment in. Because I believe right now we've donated $27,000 towards that, and we were looking at another 10 right now of donation immediately. So,
With the stipulation that you would like to see that equipment moved up to being replaced next year, is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
yes.
Yeah, yep.
And if we can't do that, that 10,000 you'll
We
put
would donate,
somewhere
we would
else?
still put 5,000 into it, and we would continue to donate towards this. We would just like to see, that's 3 years away, it's almost 4 years away, so.
Yeah. Did anyone have any
Yeah.
comments, questions for these guys?
I have no questions, no.
Okay. Okay, so currently, we are going through all of our parks and creating a blueprint, if you will, on what we want them to look like. As far as 26, I guess I can't speak to if that's where that money is allocated for right now.
It is. Yep.
And, I don't know if if we can move that up to next year, or if that has to push out. And so I'd open that up for discussion with you guys as far as, you know, we've kind of tabled our plans, as far as our blueprints for the parks until we replace Paul Sandy's position, just because we want that Public Works Director to be a part of, those discussions.
That makes sense.
Understandable.
And so that's probably not gonna happen until, we probably won't get back into that again till around September, of this year. And so I don't know that we have an answer, for you on whether we're going to move that up or would want to next year. Just because, you know, at this point, we don't have those funds allocated for that park, for that new equipment for next year, but, so it kind of sounds like we're talking, we'd either get 5,000 more yet this year,
Yep,
stipend for that, or
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah,
So the difference really would be $5,000.
Yeah,
And
at this time.
first of all, I would just like to say thank you guys for what you do. And I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's both awesome figures, the 26, the 5, the 10, because that equipment is super
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah,
yeah.
But unless anyone, Kevin, you have?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting here today. Just real quickly, do you have an idea of what you think the deadline might be to make this move?
as far as the difference between
The
5,000 and
decision,
10,000?
between, your decision-making on what you think your deadline might be to do that?
2 days.
2 days,
Yeah.
okay.
Because
Yeah.
our end of our
It's a-
fiscal year is June 30th.
Understood.
So we kind of,
Just real quickly, if I might ask, hypothetically, is there something else in the park that fits you, that if we weren't able to move ahead on the playground equipment, is there something else that you would like to see hypothetically $10,000 this year go towards?
no. I
It's
don't
the
think our-
playground equipment,
I
right?
think that's what
Okay.
we started out as a club, and that's what we wanted to do, because there's not a lot of that out there.
Yeah, understood.
know.
Thank you
And
so
we
much.
know, and we know the price tag is around 80 grand, so,
And going up, actually, 80 grand is what we spent on Triangle, which is a fairly modest playground equipment.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would say, and Mr., our president spoke briefly about this, and very well, in my opinion. The park board is right now assessing the entire empire of the park board, and obviously, Buffalo is a part of that. And we believe that we're going to have about a year into this assessment of not only structures, but grounds, and as far as future ambitions as well. Once we get through that, we intend to kind of put a price tag to not only the maintenance of keeping what we have, but also future projects like playground equipment. And then from there, we then can establish a category of need, from super high need to medium need to low need and so forth. So while as others have said, we can't tell you, we can't express it enough how thankful we are to have donors from the community who want to invest in our parks. We thrive on that. We rely on it, and we don't want to mismanage that. But the greater conversation is we don't want to mismanage the entire empire. So we would ask for you to just bear with us, and as we continue to work on that, I don't think we can get you an answer in the next 2 days, but I'm quite certain that there's a very low likelihood we will be able to move it up to next year.
Okay.
But we certainly, that's just my opinion. So knowing what I know about the budget, which is a little fuzzy, but that's just where I'm at with this, guys. So
Certainly appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank
And
you, guys.
Just here trying to get some clarification and want to make sure you guys understand,
Where we're
ladies
coming
and
from.
gentlemen, we're here, we're beside you, and we're going to go all the way through with this project. So it's just, this helps us understand what we need to do to help move the project forward.
I
We
do have one-
appreciate that.
I have one comment. Being that that is the park that's nearest to my house,
Uh-huh.
I know the neighborhood really wants swings.
Hmm.
Are swing sets considered playground equipment? Because $5,000 might be able to buy some swings. I know we have to decide as a group here, but if you guys were passionate about swings, and I realize we have to decide, but
we're more passionate about that park, and I'd say yes. I mean, we can definitely, I mean, we'll bring it back to our club here and definitely get the answer, but I wouldn't see why, if I haven't visited playground equipment down there myself. I've been down there many times for softball games for my kids. But if they need swings, I'd say we'd be more than happy to
Yeah,
get that rolling right away.
that's something the board can pull together. Yeah.
I
Let's
have
make
no
it
idea.
happen.
I don't know how much swings, when I Google swings, they're like $2,000 to $4,000, so.
I think that'll
it's-
buy a
it
chain.
might- I know, so I'm like, this might be too cheap, but I just have to speak for the neighborhood, because I know that everyone really wants swings. That's one thing in that,
Okay.
in that park, but anyways, we'll chat about it.
All right,
right.
super,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you,
again.
thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
guys.
Unfortunately, I'd like to be able to say, yes, we can do it, but
Sure, you got a whole series of things to manage
Yep.
and a missing person, so, yeah, cool.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
we'll move on to the update on the MLT Park construction. Paul Sandy, you're gonna take this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. There's an update memo in your packet related to the Mississippi Landing Trailhead project. To date, if you've been over there, you'll see a couple holes dug around the site. They're starting to pour the footings for the Learning Center and the amphitheater. Of course, the tree clearing and clearing and grubbing happened earlier this spring. They've got all the erosion and sediment control in place, so that silt fence you see along the river there. They've been digging and pouring foundations. They started excavating the hill overlook area and getting that prep for sidewalk up to the hill overlook, and also starting to excavate the area where the tiered seating will be. Some of the planned activities that'll take place here in the next month or so, more site grading excavation is planned. They're waiting on a lot of material deliveries, so some of the critical activities that'll take place are getting like the helical pile driven for the river overlook, but that's a item that's kind of out a ways because of the material deliveries. Same with actually erection of the structures themselves. So the amphitheater and the Learning Center will take a little while because they're waiting on the precast concrete beams and columns. So they'll be continuing to pour the foundations of those sites, and they just had a pour today, actually. They're going to start doing some of the sidewalks, and so you'll see probably the sidewalk up to the hill overlook happen first. That's the one they're prepping right now. And then they'll be working on the south and the north side of the park on the sidewalks and the tiered seating and things, and kind of doing the things outside there, because when those precast elements come in, they're going to have a crane and things in there, and they can't do any improvements until that happens and they get those beams set. Just a quick update, change orders 1 and 2 were processed. You can see the total amounts there. Those were for the precast items and for the restroom facility that the park board would like to kind of change direction on upon our recommendation. There's just a quick update on budget there with everything taken into account, including the road project. The total remaining, we're calling it, is around $600,000, and so that number is pretty healthy at this point in time. From the canoe kayak launch side, we've been working very closely with the DNR for the last month since we last reported. Good news is that our permit is going through the public comment process right now, which means that there's a very, very high likelihood that permit will be issued to us, and we'll be able to construct the canoe kayak launch as we had it designed. So that's awesome. Good news. Since that was pulled out of the project, that once we get some pricing back from the contractor, we will be bringing that back to the park board to look at for approval in a change order probably next month. So we hope to have that permit in hand next month, along with that change order with the pricing for that element of the park. I don't think there's anything else I missed, so if you guys have questions, concerns, anything you've been hearing, I'm available to answer those now.
Anybody? Yes, Ken?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Mr. Sandy, just anything that you see at this point that would lead us to believe that our timeframe, our completion specifically, is being pushed?
No, I don't believe so. The contractor, Custom Builders, we've been in constant contact with them about lead times and things. He's been very on the ball about getting things ordered, and we've been helping him along in the process by getting approvals on shop drawings and things back to him as timely as possible, because there are some long lead times on a lot of items, like steel doors and, just there's a variety of items that are just, 8 to 10 weeks out. You'll see the road starting to get tore up after the 4th of July. So July 5th is that planned closure. You'll see the road work starting to get done after that point. So storm sewer, curb and gutter, new trail section and things, so.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy. Thank you, man.
Exciting.
Thank you. All right, no further discussion. We could move on to interim city engineer Sandy's up again. Talk about the Brado brothers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we reported at the last meeting, that we would have quotes for the Kiwanis Park improvements, we did receive one quote back. I think we solicited 5 or 6 different companies. There's just a lot of work right now going on, and people are pretty busy. Brado Brothers did respond to our request. Total cost of $66,628 for the improvements that we had approved a couple meetings ago. I did include the drawings in the packet. We have a total invoice amount from TWM Travis Miller for about $3,100, and he anticipates it'll be the total fee for his services will be less or right around that 6,000 number. So this leaves us some room in the budget, and really what we wanted to have a conversation about with you guys tonight is, number one, do you want to utilize the room that is left? And, I know that we kind of forewent replacing any fixtures in the bathrooms because we weren't sure how these bids would come in or how these quotes would come in. Lighting, toilets, sinks, that kind of stuff. Within the restrooms, Troy mentioned kind of resealing the floors in those bathrooms would be a good thing to do. We tried to keep the project plan pretty limited just because we didn't want to overscope it and then have prices come in that something we couldn't manage and we would end up cutting. So we're in a pretty good position. I really wanted to have this conversation with you guys so that Travis and I can take a step back and maybe get the contractor to start looking at whether it's fixtures or the floors or the lights inside or whatever that is. If you guys give us that direction, we can move forward with that. So, but our recommendation tonight is just to approve the quotes and then have any discussion about that 32 plus or minus that's left within those 2 budgeted numbers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sandy. Any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Andrew?
A couple. Does the 66 include like a reserve?
No, that's just, if they do the work that's specified in the plans, we would pay them the full 66. So no contingency at all, no.
Okay, and it's so on a smaller project like this, that's not common? Or
No, I mean, I wouldn't say, how I'm used to projects, and I know, building contractors are a little different from like civil work. We won't do contingencies in our road plans just because what the contractor bids, it's on a kind of a unit price basis. So for every ton of gravel they place down, they get paid a certain amount. On building projects, it's a little different. If you perform the work and do it, you get paid kind of the full amount. And so there's generally a contingency in there for items that may be missed in the plans. Usually on a construction project, like a civil contract, we'll like change order the contract if it's an item that isn't in there. If it's an item that's already in the contract and it's just overrunning, we'll just let it overrun. And then come back at a future date. So, no, there's no contingency in that number. So the number is, and if there's missed items that may come back and, be an additional cost. So we might want to leave a little bit of room there.
Any other comments?
Yeah, real quickly, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so my leaning here, I don't know, I'm just going to weigh in on kind of where I would be on this with the 32 grand. My leaning would be rather than go back to Brado Brothers and ask them what they could spend 32 grand on, I'd prefer to have staff or Mr. Miller create a scope of work or kind of a pick list, if we will, of what would make sense for additions to this project while we're doing it. Obviously, there's money to be saved if you're doing it all at the same time. You got the same subs and vendors in there. So, and then have Brado Brothers price that for us. So I'm not sure what the expediency or the rapidity of what you would need for us to get or make a decision on those would be. So maybe you could tell me just a little bit about the time frame. But my thinking is have Travis create the list, have Barado Brothers price the list, and then have us pick and choose what we might like to see for ads. But I believe that's probably a good business practice at this time to save a little contingency just for potential overruns on construction projects as well, or potential unforeseens that might lead to a change order. So that's where I would lean on this one. We could use the 32 grand somewhere else hypothetically also, but.
I would say that our list would be, likely the floor first. I think that would be our number one. I think Troy raised some concerns about that, getting that, the sealer put back on it and get that back up to a standard that we can clean easy, and then probably the fixtures, the toilets and the sinks, and just the general plumbing infrastructure in the building. So I think that will likely eat up a lot of that. Travis, I don't know if.
Yeah, I think that would be.
And if memory serves me correct, Kiwanis has some money to throw into this project also, and I don't know if that's been chased down or fleshed out, but Kiwanis had not only some time, but I believe there was some money stashed away to throw into this, so I don't know if that's part of the conversation here as well. I believe it was 700,000, was that? I'm a little fuzzy on the math.
Hi, I'm Brian Ross. I'm president-elect for the Brainerd Kiwanis Club. And yes, we did put some in the budget, of our budget for this year. We had a good year. We raised money at the fair, among other things. We had a good year last year. And so we had put quite a bit in there for our purposes. Not as much. We don't do the gambling, so not as much as the Lions. But yeah, we've already, we're going to buy 2 benches and honor a couple of our Kiwanian members, past Kiwanian members, Gene Collins and Mike Lambert, and we've been working with Kim on that, so we got that order in. So that came up to 2,400. We're going to go ahead and order signs. Paul wanted suggested some new signs on there. So we still have, a fair amount need that we were looking for, doing some interpretive thing on the wall, as suggested on the wall of the new restroom, to provide a little bit of the history of the park and provide some information about Kiwanis. I think some people go down there and say, what the heck is Kiwanis? So that's what we were looking at. And we probably have a little bit more, in the budget to help out with some things. But on the order maybe, and I can't speak exactly what we could, but, 2,500 to 3,000 maybe, to help out with other things, One of the things that I saw in the original work that Woodseth did on the assessment was a new sidewalk down to the dock there, that we worked hard to get that dock on the lake, Boom Lake there, and it's not really handicap accessible at this point. So I don't know if that would work out or something we wouldn't do at the same time, but that's where we're sitting with that.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Andrew?
Just one other thing I'd like to consider would be gutters. I see the havoc that rainwater wreaks at Gregory's warming house, and I think if we're doing a similar roof, I think is what the new drawings are like. See if that's a practical thing to add.
Yeah, so we can get a pricing on that too. Get that back for next month. We'll approach Barado with maybe those 3 items and maybe add. I don't remember if we had new lighting included in there, Travis.
There's new lighting underneath the pavilion.
Just not in the bathrooms themselves. So
We already had camera in this one, right?
yeah, cameras are already on as a separate budget item. And from the sidewalk perspective, so we did, the park board's budgeted that $25,000 a year in ADA upgrades in parks. That's something that, if we're gonna go park by park and focus, maybe we utilize that in Kiwanis this year, and then the $25,000 could be used in JC's next year when we're over there doing things. So that's why kind of vision is that $25,000 kind of goes along with wherever we're investing money that year, right? And so that $25,000, could go a long way, along with, $3,000 if a sidewalk is of most importance to the Kiwanis Club and the park board, to get that to from the parking lot down to the restroom, and then from the restroom down to the pier. We might be able to get that done for that amount. I'm not sure what that would come out to, but
Awesome. That's something we could get sketched up and get a price on, though?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
All right.
Maybe have all those items at the next park board meeting. We could get that put together. So I think that's good enough direction for us. So we'd just be looking for a motion tonight to allow Browder Brothers to say, yep, you got the work, and then we'll keep working with them to scope some of the other stuff out.
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Okay,
I have one more thing I wanted to add, sorry.
go ahead.
What about picnic tables, like some nice, I don't know, I think we've talked about them at other parks, but I know that the bathroom is important, especially if, Troy, you're working in there and, you know that the floor needs to be redone, but a couple of great picnic tables underneath our great new pavilion.
Yep, so
that'd be pretty awesome.
those, the budgeted funds for picnic tables too, we were gonna dedicate to that park, just like the ADA upgrades. So we did put in, I think, 10 picnic tables on order, and I think we've gotten them. We're just waiting for the pavilion and everything to get done, so we don't bolt them down in there and then run into problems with them having to work over the top of them.
Are these the steel?
They're the steel ones like are in Gregory and over at Memorial now.
Yeah.
So there'll be 4 underneath the bathroom pavilion and 4 underneath, or 4 or 6 underneath the big pavilion.
Mayor?
Yeah, I just have one small question about the picnic tables. The ones at Gregory's, there's a couple spots where people have scraped that coating off. Is that something that we can regularly replace, or we, once
I'm
it's
sure they
gone,
got
is it
something
gone?
spray on that we could repair those with so they don't start rusting, but if we can find the similar color, that's gonna be the real
Yeah, I just
question, right?
noticed it on one in particular, they've taken a good 6-inch, 8-inch chunk off there. So I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with those so that they don't just continually deteriorate.
Thank you, Mayor Bordeaux. So we have a motion, and Kevin, that motion included,
I think the motion is to approve, the Browder Brothers construction for Kiwanis Park improvements. Not attached to that motion was just the staff direction to come back to us with a pick list for next meeting to add scope for the additional funds. But
so will that would include rain gutters, sidewalks, and have that all itemized out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep,
All
can
right,
do that.
we have a motion. Any further discussion? We have a second?
I'll second
Oh.
it.
She beat you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm glad you brought up the rain gutters, Andrew, because I was going to mention that also. Okay. Next line item. Thank you, Mr. Sandy. You're up again, interim city engineer Sandy, and we're talking about the Arpa funds for park projects?
I think me and Jennifer can tag team this. I don't know if you want to set the stage, Jennifer, with the conversations at the city council.
I sure can. So the city of Brainerd received approximately $1.4 million in America Rescue Plan funds. And in February, the city council had a workshop to discuss the use of these funds and recommended, among other things, that some of the funds actually could be used for park projects. And it was really discussed quite a bit because these are COVID funds to get our youth outside and active and encouraging healthy habits. The council discussed an allocation of ARPA funds for parks specifically. The council will be discussing these funds again at their July 5th city council meeting. Staff will be bringing recommendations to the Personnel and Finance Committee to have a discussion about the overall uses of the ARPA funds. So staff would just like to discuss the possibility of the park board requesting funds to address some of your budgeted items in your capital plan. The park board may want to consider requesting maybe $500,000 for capital items that are currently slated for your 23, 24, 25 year capital plan. And I know Paul has attached some information there as well. I also have some information that Sean has that really just nailed down 23, 24, and 25, just specifically on park projects, if it's something that could be helpful in the discussion as well. So Paul, if you have more to add too.
Yeah, so what I did is I just took the snapshot of our capital plan for 2023 to 2026. And, you know, whatever the direction is from the park board, if they want to advance some projects or request to advance some projects, or if you guys have other specialty projects that you want to consider to have the city council, you know, look at those, or Really, it's a request that'll be made to the city council on what your guys' priority list is, whether it's advancing capital or if it's, doing anything outside of the scope of our capital plan. So that's really up in your guys' hands at this point.
Okay. So just so we understand, this isn't something that you need us to make a request. Is this something we need to make a request on for the July 5th council meeting?
I think the council would appreciate kind of knowing what types of projects you would be looking at using those funds for. So I think it would be a good discussion to have at the park board meeting now. Make some recommendations and general recommendations. Paul, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of put them in two buckets, either future capital, or are there other things away from the capital plan that the park board has been looking at that maybe you want to implement one of your master plans, or maybe you want to advance something like that. So, I think it's kind of two categories. It's either advancing a future year capital item up sooner and getting it done now, or is it something that you guys have had on the back of your mind, or implementing one of the park master plans, or whatever that is.
Mayor Bordeaux?
So to clarify, what the council had spoke of, as Jennifer said, was the idea behind this being that with COVID, there is that connection to health, and specifically with the youth, making sure that we're getting them outside, making sure that we're having activities available for them. So the parks is just a win-win in that scenario. But one of the things that the council was very clear about is that they are hoping to use the funds more so on items that are already in the budget moving forward, so that we're not just coming up with things out of the blue. We're more so looking at what are the things we have coming up that fit into that criteria that could send a message, really, more than anything, to the public that we are taking these funds and we are using them in a way that we feel is very strongly supportive of healthy bodies.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Bordeaux. Comments? Andrew?
I have a couple, themes that I've thought of in reading the packet. First of all, I think this may tie into some of the tree discussion in the next item. If we've lost 100+ trees, we might want to invest a little bit more in replacing some of those. I think another route we could go is sort of investing in ways to provide amenities in the park that also generate some revenue. So I know Katie had mentioned, right, improving the concession stand at Memorial to sell concessions for the splash pad as well. I think that provides benefits to people who are using the parks and also helps us fund ourselves a little bit more going forward. And then kind of contrary to what the mayor just said, I see the organization around the skate park and the value that we provide as an activity, and I think that's something worth really looking at. Gets folks outside. It's a low maintenance item. I think it's worth looking at if we can help them out.
Okay. Thank you.
I can go next. I was thinking trees too, because trees bring people shade, all that to the parks. But also looking at like Memorial Park, disc golf, we had talked about that. Just like more ways to bring people out. I'm still really passionate about the trail around that park, but just ways to get people into the park. So yeah, I don't want to do anything with like parking lots or anything like that. And we already have playground equipment at most parks, so I wouldn't want to do that. But just like maybe new activities to get people out to our parks.
Okay. Kevin, any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little fuzzy on the process here, and I'm a little fuzzy on the timing. If the number is really 500,000 to 800,000, I mean that potentially is a substantial number. If Jennifer, can you just please flesh out for me what this process is going to be to realize how much the money is and what the deadline to spend it is, and if it needs to be dedicated to a specific project with a price tag before, or if we can ask for a certain amount of money and then get that money and then use it as we want on certain types of projects that fit a criteria. So I'm like way fuzzy on just the money amount, because I think that might have an impact on our decision-making. The playground equipment at Buffalo comes to mind right off the bat, if you could match money that way. But Jennifer, could you please just expand a little bit on the process, the money, how it would work in that? And maybe you don't know, I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot. But.
No, that's fine. So these are America Rescue Plan dollars, as I mentioned, that we received through the state of Minnesota from the America Rescue Plan Act. The funds must be committed by 12/31 of 2024, and they must be spent by 12/31 of 2026. At the last city council meeting, there were a couple of requests for ARPA funds. One was for matching funds for the Deed Main Street Revitalization Program, and then another request was for two different projects. One was for the Gully Restoration Project, and that was to, the staff requested some funds to request matching dollars for the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Program, Paul, what is the Clean Water?
Yeah, Clean Water Act.
Clean Water Act program. The other one was for sanitary sewer and a lining project that we're currently working on. The direction that we received from council at the last meeting was to go back. The direction from the council back in February was for us as staff to come back and present some specific requests for the use of the ARPA dollars. The Clean Water Act really is a pressing thing. We believe the application is going to open up in July.
It is open right now, I believe.
It's open and it's due when, Paul?
Probably in a month.
And so really what prompted this to be more pressing was the ability to receive matching funds that would fund approximately 70% of the overall project if ARPA funds could be used to match the Clean Water Act grant application. So that's what really pressed this. What the council said was please come back with recommendations on the whole almost 5 million.
And what type of projects qualify for the Clean Water Act funds?
Stormwater projects. Stormwater, so we have a gully remediation project that we're at like 70% design at this point.
Okay.
And we have a cost estimate right around $840,000. They require a 25% match. We basically went to the city council and asked them for 33%, which was about $275,000. And that gives us a little bit more of a better standing with the committee that reviews those and funds projects.
But the stormwater, the stormwater money has little contribution to park projects, right? Am I understanding that correctly? So the time frame realistically is 12/24 to come back with a plan or come back with ideas to be spent by 26. Is that correct? So do we actually have 18 months to come up with the ideas of how to spend this?
No.
No. Okay, I'm hearing no.
So to clarify, this happened back in February. So this is a conversation that should have been happening a long time ago, and I'm surprised that we're having it right now, seeing as our meeting is in a couple weeks, actually less than a week. So that's a little concerning. However, the city council had a list of priorities that it put in place. I would say, and I may be incorrect about this, but I would say that the city council put parks ahead of stormwater. So you guys are in a very good position to come back and with a recommendation and say, here's what we think is really important for the citizens of Brainerd, for their children, for getting them outside. Here's things that we have on our list that we think would be really important. Buffalo Hills playground equipment for handicapped children seems like a very good fit to me. I don't know if that's the perfect fit, but that seems like a good fit. That type of stuff was very high on the list. So you guys are in a wonderful position to present to the city council, and now you have no time to do it, options that they can look at, because that's what the city council is looking for. They're looking for options that they can then go, you know what, we really like this. But I will tell you right now, high on the list was this stuff here.
Thank you.
Jennifer, go ahead.
So, and Mr. Chair, members of the board, so you have a 30-year capital plan. You know that you're going to be making significant investments in the parks. especially over the next 5 years. You've identified what those investments are going to be. I think that this is the perfect foundation to be making a request to the city council. I think that you have a plan. I don't know what the council will say if the park board says, here is a plan that we have. We would like to request $500,000 to be able to use these funds in our capital plan, right? Do you have to specifically identify Buffalo Hills for 50,000, JC's for 75,000?
If I can jump in just for fast, I may be incorrect about this, but I believe the council is looking more for that than they are, hey, we'd just like to spend this money on what we've got going. I think the council is very specifically looking for specific projects that you guys are interested in, that you believe fit the scope of what we're looking for.
So, and I think this is all good. I mean, the problem, I wouldn't even call it the problem, the opportunity we're faced with is that we have a week to try to identify what some of the things that we feel is the most, and we're kind of asked to do this right here and right now at this meeting. And so, I mean, you guys have brought up some things that you'd like to see. And so, from my understanding is we need to say, we need this much, we would like to see this much money allocated to these, and then what projects we would like to have that money spent on. And moved up if we could. Is that a correct statement?
I think the deadline would actually be the packet date, not the Monday meeting, correct?
Correct, the packet will go out on Thursday.
So what if we pick like one thing from each park? I know we have to all agree on it, but I mean, looking like Lum Park, what about a beach? I don't know, like that's only, but if we have 500,000, 100,000 for a beach, we could all pick one thing from each park if we need to be that specific.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've done master planning for enough of these that we could be confident in a lot of those picks.
I personally would like to see Memorial. I don't know if you guys have been watching what's going on in Memorial. There's been a lot of stuff going on. The splash pad's been pretty helpful in getting some stuff done, or getting some people in that park. And that one just feels like an unfinished business to me, that Memorial Park not being completed with the trail. My wife and I just walked around the outside of Mills Field, and, there's a lot of potential there that just is just sitting, doing nothing. And, I think getting that trail in there and finishing up the project that we spent a lot of time on, to me is something we should really look hard at. And yeah, I mean, Lum Park is another one, but, what are some of those things that we talked about that could also be bringing money back into the system, such as increased camping at Lum Park? Would that be suited to the beach that we have there? So, kind of following right in there with you that, if we're gonna increase those amenities in that park, there should be something there for them people to want to come to and enjoy. But others, Kevin?
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering, I'm asking the people in the room, because a lot of the people in this room, we have council members here, I mean, we have the mayor here. Is there any way that we could just ask for an amount and then give us the time to fashion what we think fits the vision, and then have that amount ultimately pending approval from the city council at a later date, once we can better present this, to say, okay, here's the 500 you gave us, this is what we would like to spend the 500 on. If they say no, we revise it. If they say yes, we go. But I just feel like we're scrambling here to to rush this together, and I just feel 100% ill-prepared. I'm thankful to have this problem, but
I think we would do an injustice by trying to solve this all and picking this all at this meeting. We could sit here till 8, 9, 10 o'clock to try to figure this out. One thing is we don't have all the numbers. You know, we don't have all the numbers that go with,
and they're out of date, some of them.
yeah, some of the improvements that we've looked at, but yeah, so it's tough. How do we pick those items in such short notice? But
Would it be helpful if we at least come up with some themes, as kind of Jennifer was talking about, to say to the council, we want X dollars focused on playgrounds, trails, beaches, so that they have a sense of what that money is used for? And then knowing, right, we would come back with mostly things in that vein.
I think we could craft the criteria between now and the next meeting for sure, that would fit the vision. I think we could say, these are the types of projects that will directly affect kids. This will directly put people in our parks. This will directly affect, activities in our parks. But I think we could do that.
and when do you need it by?
Technically Thursday.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the board, the request could certainly be for $500,000 and ask the city council to allow you to bring back your list of projects for their future approval. My question to you would be how would you like to see staff bring this forward for you to be able to make decisions? There are a lot of eligible uses for these dollars. And so trying to figure out at a staff level what projects we're recommending to the council. It's a great problem to have, right? It's $1.5 million, almost 1.5. We're thrilled to have it. It's a good problem to have. But how do you narrow down what projects are most important? So I know we have the chair of personnel and finance here. This will be going to personnel and finance. We plan to have a list of projects for the council to consider. Have we bid out every project that we're recommending to the council? We haven't. These are estimates. We have until 12/31 of 2024 to spend the money. And if the council can help us prioritize those projects that we bring forward, then we can start to focus and get numbers and bring those back for formal approval by the council.
Yes,
So-
to your point, Jennifer, some of these projects haven't even been scoped yet. So these numbers are just
Plugs.
really, they're plugs.
100%
Yeah,
plugs.
yeah, Kevin and I sat down for, I think, 6 hours one day and just hammered through a whole bunch of, collectively over time to put this 30-year plan together. So a lot of these projects haven't even been scoped for, feasibility and what is it actually going to cost. So, really, they're plugged in numbers that.
I'd just like to point out to the board that our current capital budget is pre-master planning. So that's my real hesitation with this, is that we're working on master planning right now, which I think is realistically a year-long process to get through the master planning, attach prices to it, and then attach urgency or need to it. So I feel like that's out ahead of us here before we could truly make a good surgical decision on this, but.
I agree. It makes it hard. We were on a good clip, and then we kind of, someone left, so then we kind of hit the skids and said we want to wait until we can pick this up again. And so, again, it would really be nice if we could just say these, we've spent a lot of time looking at different improvements that we want to make. And then really, until we're done with that master planning, how can we really say what the top priority is? Other than we already know, for instance, Memorial Park is, we know what those costs are, and I think we could label that one, but the rest of it, how do we really say this is the top priority if we're not finished? But
The issue is that there is a very specific amount of money, and you are not the only group that is going to be making requests for that money. So you have top priority in terms of what I was hearing, and in terms of myself, you have top priority, but you know, that's why I sit here, I prefer the parks. But there's going to be gully projects that are gonna come in and are gonna be snagging your money. There's gonna be other projects that are being recommended. Coming from the council, what was requested was, from staff, that we would receive projects that we could then sift through and find out options for. You guys are in a very bad position in that you are having an option to present projects, but now you're not having enough time to do so. The goal of this, at least, I mean, you could come back and say, we want 500,000. You could go back and say, you want $1,500 or $1.5 million. You could do that. But the problem with that is it doesn't really match the criteria, and in doing so, you're gonna run into that scenario where we're getting other requests that are requests. And we have a gully that is making a request. I don't want to fund the gully. I think that is a travesty. But it's being requested. So there's a fine line there. So whether it's tonight or whether it's in the next couple days, at least an idea if you were to say, we foresee Lum Park as potentially having projects that are X amount of dollars, or we foresee J.C.'s Park, or we foresee Buffalo Hills as having X amount of dollars that could be requested. I think that's a safer route than just a full-on, hey, we're requesting 500,000. Because I think at that point, you're gonna get pushed aside a little bit. And I'm not saying that the council's going to make a decision at their next meeting. I would hope that they would not. But that is the timeframe that we're moving on now. So as projects are coming in, the council has not said we're going to wait until we review all of them. They have said, we want projects to look at. And so they could start selecting projects one at a time, so.
So let me ask my fellow board members this. What are you doing tomorrow evening?
I have my calendar out. I mean, it feels like we need to meet on this.
That's what I mean, I think we need to take this offline of this meeting and us just meet and look at some of this, because we don't have a lot of all the numbers here with what we're seeing, and to be able to put together something a little more in line with what the council's asking for, to the best of our ability, with such short notice.
Perhaps we should all drag out our capital plan one more time and look at it preface to the meeting, just to familiarize ourselves with what technically was ahead, and then we could get together and, you know, scramble something together. Tomorrow, I have a meeting at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, but
Well, Jennifer, in order for them to meet, though,
it has to be, we could adjourn to that.
You can
meeting.
adjourn to
you
it.
could adjourn to it, yep.
Thursday, I'm open in the evening.
Packet go
By
out.
Thursday.
Friday, I'm open in the meeting, in the evening.
It's open, or I mean, I thought it was due by Thursday.
Packet will go out Thursday afternoon.
So tomorrow we need to meet. I mean, I can.
And, you know, Mr. Chair, as the mayor said, that the council may not take action on this on the 5th as well. You know, if the request is framed at, in 2023, in your capital plan, you have $627,500 in all of these projects. In 2024, your capital budget is $571,500. Those are your capital requests. And I understand, Commissioner Yeager, these were, you know, pre-master planning. And of course, even in capital plans, right, we're not vetting out what the actual costs are for the next year. That it could be framed in a request of $500,000, which is kind of supported by the Park Board's capital plan.
Yeah, I guess my concern with that is if we have a ditch gully.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that request was just made because there is a timely grant application coming up. And if we want to take that out of the storm sewer fund, I mean, it's just a project that has come up and we don't have to use ARPA dollars on it. The city council decide to fund that through enterprise funds or whatever they want to do. I mean, there's no, that was the only reason it was brought up. It was to leverage grant funds. So that was, you know,
yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is if we're like, hey, give us this round number for stuff in our capital plan, and then here's a very specific thing that has tangible benefits and has matching dollars, we kind of look like schlubs. Like, well, just give us money, we'll figure it out. And then there's something very tangible on the other side that doesn't feel super persuasive.
How does that work in your capital plan when you ask the council for funds for the following year? And I'm sorry, I haven't been involved. When you go to the council and, like this year, I think you had $75,000 budgeted. Did you itemize exactly what that $75,000 was for the park project?
No, sorry, no, we didn't. We had earmarked certain amounts for what we called beautification to be used at our discretion to replace things like trees that get blown down, those types of things, so. And
this
that's
the
because
same
of the
kind?
nuance of what needs to be done in the parks. We couldn't specifically identify every single thing that comes up, and we just know we, would be able to use it. So
Would
that's-
that be the same type of request for the ARPA funds, just like you asked for capital funds? That you, when you ask the council to adopt your budget, you don't know specifically what you're going to be doing with those capital funds, but you ask for $75,000 in capital funds.
Yes, Jennifer, that's my leaning, but we're hearing something completely different from Dave, from Dave, really, is on the specifics, would look more appealing to our city council.
I'm not saying that, what I'm saying is the council could come in next week and say, we are doing that gully, and that money's gone. And then that money is just taken right out of the pool.
Understood.
So that's my only comment on that. I do not think that we're going to do that.
Again, I'd like to look at adjourning this meeting to tomorrow. You have a meeting at 6, Kevin?
Yes, I have hypothetically, I have an opening. I could move my 6 o'clock if I had to a little bit later, so we could do a 4 o'clock.
That's what I'm asking. Could we do 4 o'clock? Would you guys be available 4 o'clock? Andrew?
I could do 4:30, so even if they'll have to start without me.
4:30 would be fine for me. I'd still make it.
4:30?
But we need to get the capital plan out to everyone by email tonight.
I can send that out.
Just to look at
The
it.
most recent one.
Okay, that'd be great. Troy or Katie, would you have time or interest in coming to a meeting tomorrow? And the reason I ask that is there's stuff in that plan that you foresee you might need sooner than
Yes, what time again?
4:30?
Conference room, if at all possible,
Downstairs?
if that's all right, yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, what would you like us to bring to help you prepare? I hear Paul saying he'll send out the capital plan tonight. Are there things you would like us to prepare for so it'll make your meeting easier tomorrow?
In my opinion, Mr. Chair, if I may, I just don't think there's any time to really prepare anything beyond our capital, our budget. I don't know what it would be.
I think we need to look at that and look at what are some tangible items that we can pull out of there.
Yeah.
Hey, Kim, could you bring those laminated maps tomorrow? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's, the best we can do right now is just, we plan on adjourning to another meeting tomorrow evening at 4:30.
Miss Sandy, can you be there or no?
I won't be able to make
That's
it.
okay. That's all right. I know the capital plan pretty well, so I think I can get us through it. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Good problem to have.
So we will move on to Assistant City Engineer Flooding.
I'm presenting on behalf of that,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Sandy.
So we have that 25,000 that's allocated for tree replacements. You guys brought it up a little bit earlier about, we're kind of looking for a prioritized list on, we've lost probably over 100 trees. I think Troy can attest to that. Which parks do you want us to focus on? You're probably gonna get 25 max of the good quality ball and burlap, trees. What park or parks, plural, do you want us to focus on for those plantings? so that we can order them up.
Anybody?
I have a real quick one, Mr. Chair, if I may, please. Yeah, so my leaning here would be, first priority is to plant some shade trees over our ice rink and Memorial. And beyond that, throw every other single tree in Lum. That'd be my leaning. Lum was completely, major devastation over there, so.
So shade trees, the way that rink is oriented, they would have to be on the
South side, if
South
we can we fit
side.
them in there?
Well, you can fit them, but the sun's going to have to be very, very low for them to provide shade all the way across that rink.
Well, understood, but 20 years from now,
Right.
we'd be, the idea is 20 years from now, the trees would make a huge difference to making ice every year, but that was.
Do you
that was
want
my
us,
thinking.
so would you want them all the way around the rink?
No, just on the south side, I think is what we were talking about, is that the sun was giving us fits on the north side. I'm going, but this is just my idea, by the way, guys, so, we had talked about that, man, some trees on the south side would be a huge game changer,
But specific trees, we don't want,
yeah,
we want evergreens.
tall
I'm just
coniferous trees,
worried about
correct.
the angle of the sun. Even if we planted on the south side, they wouldn't reach over to that north side. Because the rink, is pretty large. And so at the heat of the day, when the sun is directly overhead, you're probably not going to get the shade on that end that's causing us problems. And so to provide the most coverage, you would have to try to plant them all the way around, I'm thinking. Because I don't know, just kind of thinking about the angle of the sun during the winter time, even if the trees were 100 feet high, you might not reach all the way across that rink. I'm just not sure.
Well, then, Lum would be my pick then.
I have comments for that, but do you guys have anything?
I agree with Lum, and I was going to say, don't plant anymore in Buffalo Hills, because I feel like that is too shady of a park anyways. So those are beautiful trees that went down, but it would be nice to have some sun in there.
We want to go like the evergreen theme in Lum? Or,
I'd like, personally, and we talked a little bit about this, is that we'd like James to look at this, at the trees, to get a nice mix of trees in our parks, to James. James is our arborist. He could make a recommendation on what will go well with the soil type, what'll look good in the, that kind of thing. So I would lean on James to make recommendations on that personally. But
I agree with Lum also, but I'm hesitant to just say, go put trees in. Lum
right, we
Park,
just wanted some direction.
because of
so
our
we-
master
yeah.
plan for that park. I don't want to have to be in.
Once we get 'em
dang, that
a
tree's in the way, now
recommendation-
we got to take that tree down, or.
Yep.
So,
Once we get a recommendation from James, we'll get them on order at least, and then we can decide placement and things, if that makes sense. We just need to get them on order because there's a timeliness to that right now in the season.
Mayor, about,
I have just a couple comments. One, I love Lum Park and would have liked to see trees in there before we lost more trees. Secondly, baseball fields, I would love to see us getting trees around those fields in places where people can sit, so it's nice and comfortable, maybe a little ways away. So if you've got a child, there's a place you can have some shade in. I got a couple spots in Bain Park I can think of. But more importantly, JC's had two very nice large trees. Both of them happen to fall on buildings. The T-ball is not happening tonight in JC's Park because of those trees. So I'd love to see some trees back in JC's as well, since there are literally no trees there now.
JC's did come up to me also, especially because we talked about that park and some changes that we'd like to see in that park. And there are some, some really bare spots there. And JC's would be another park that I would agree that would be a good spot to place some trees. Looking at our master plan for that park before it being done, but.
yeah, it's a great thing to talk about, because we could plant trees that actually serve a mechanical purpose. We could we could make those, put those in line before trees like in Lum that serve a beautification purpose, right? So I like what we're talking about here. If we can think of trees where we need them right now mechanically for the enjoyment of our parks, I would put those over the top of beautification for sure. So, yeah. Sounds like you guys are at the ball fields a fair amount and got a spot.
Right out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a long game here, right? It's not, 25 trees a year. It's a lot. However, we just lost, 100
4 years,
in 3 weeks.
Right. Great.
And so that's 4 years, and then it's another 25 to 30 until they're to a point. So, we're playing the long game here. But if we can just identify a park or two that we want to invest in this year, and the next year we'll have that another 25 to spend. Or if you want to designate ARPA funds to trees, it's just a timeliness to the order of them, and so.
Okay. I don't think there's anything we need to make a motion on, is it? Or,
No, we
Throw
would,
this in our tomorrow meeting.
yeah, we just want some direction
Yeah.
on parks, so James can look at those parks and match trees that would do well with what your guys' goals are.
yeah.
I had heard from a source, something about a tree, what do we call it? Oh, I'm forgetting now. What do you call it? A tree draft. I had heard something about a tree draft from this guy.
I like the tree draft idea, yes.
I had heard something about that, and I was excited, so I don't know why you're not bringing it up.
Yeah, well, the idea of the tree draft is you basically, everyone brings in where they think they want to put trees, and you 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until they're all gone. So we could do that. If everyone wants to pick their 5 spots, 5 times 5 is 25, boom, there we go.
I got mine picked out.
It's a good way to do it.
We didn't talk about who was eligible for the draft.
And I know who to put a bug in there.
Would it be okay, Mr. President, if we just said everyone think about this before our next meeting and come prepared with 5 placements of their tree? Then we'll,
Good plan.
all right.
The tomorrow meeting or the next?
Tomorrow's.
Oh, sorry, whatever. I'm losing my mind. Isn't tomorrow the meeting at 4:30?
Tomorrow at 4:30.
Okay, perfect.
Tomorrow, we need to have a spot.
Tomorrow, you gotta have them ready.
Oh, you should already know.
We've
Okay.
5 trees. We each get 5.
What about Tim?
10? Well, that was the 5.
Tim.
Tim?
I know, that was the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I will draft in honor of Tim.
Right, you'll be voting by proxy.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Parks Department Maintenance and Recreation Report, I believe is next.
Thank you. I believe public forum and board member reports are next.
Public forum, yes, public forum. Oh, yeah, then we have, yep. Mr. Johnson.
Oh, hey. State your name, please.
Gabe Johnson, 1501 Rosewood Street. I didn't look at the agenda before coming here. This is a very interesting meeting so far. I apologize that you guys hadn't heard about the ARPA funds until now. We thought that was sent to you in February. But I'm here to volunteer my services for the tree draft if you're looking for more franchises. But actually, I'm here for Memorial Park. Just wondering if you guys would put out the hockey nets. So the kids are skating around on their rollerblades, can shoot some pucks. The pickleball people can just push them off to the side when they're playing pickleball. Hockey kids can push the pickleball nets off to the side when they're playing hockey, and I think that'd be a really cool thing if you guys did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anyone have an issue with
Do we
that?
have
Is
any
that
thoughts from
possible
staff
today?
on whether we have issues with that?
Talking just to one, or would you like a couple? One would be enough, yeah. If it gets real busy, I might ask for a second.
This actually does bring up a pretty interesting point for the end of summer the event that I'm doing. There's been ongoing wondering if the skate park association can set up on that cement, and I didn't know if staff wanted to say they're pro-con having skateboards potentially on that cement in there, or if that's okay
In the
if they
ice
set
rink?
up on
In
the
the
ice rink in
pickleball?
there, because it's a really flat surface. So being able to use it in a special event format, not necessarily promoting them to set up half pipes during the week or anything. I just didn't know if that was something you guys wanted to have a say in or not.
Are people currently reserving the pickleball courts?
Not
Yep.
really.
I had one request, but they went someplace else. So at this time, I don't think I have.
They reserved the tennis courts to play pickleball, but they're not reserving at Memorial.
The center uses the Gregory Park pickleball courts.
Pickleball courts have been full, though, over there. They've been high use. And we don't want any altercations with hockey players and pickleball players, I can tell you that. It's not gonna turn out well for the hockey players.
Katie, are people skateboarding in there at this time? Like, do we want to start promoting, like, that could be an idea?
We definitely don't want to promote that that's where the
Yeah.
skate park's going,
Right.
but it is, for that event, one of the more flat spaces. The idea would be their pickleball tournament in the morning, and then midday to evening, we would move the pickleball nets off to the side or off of the rink, and they could set up their skate park demo stuff in there, and then later on is the disco skate. So that's kind of the transition. They just keep asking me if that's an option for them to set up there, or if they need to figure out something else in a parking lot. But Memorial Park's parking lot right now in front of the softball fields, that's not a no-go for skateboarding. It's too rough, so.
Seems fine to me, like we'd build the skate park out of cement, so. Yeah.
Mr. Bordeaux?
My comment would just be that aside from one weirdo mayor, having the skate park have their event out here in City Hall has not led to skateboarders in our parking lot. So I think we'll be okay. I think they're pretty mindful of why we're allowing them to do it, so.
Okay, well, that's cool.
So are you asking permission to do that?
More so just getting a general idea of your thoughts on it, so you're not surprised if you do see it at the event, and that, and we are aware that it might have happened at the event, and if it becomes an issue or something, they just wanted me to check with you guys before we went ahead and allowed it to happen.
All right. So any other public forum? Yeah.
Make it quick. Again, Brian Ross with the Brainerd Kiwanis Club. Really appreciate your planning for the Kiwanis Park, the master plan. We really like it, and we're willing to help. We have somewhat limited funds, but we'll kick in what we can. Also, we're willing to, and I think this came up earlier, willing to help out with brush clearing. And I don't know exactly how that'll materialize, but we could get some work crews down there and work with Troy and his crew. We're not going to do big trees, but clearing the brush. But assuming the areas that you want cleared will go to grass, and the Parks Department will plant that and take care of that. The other thing I had was a question is just you have improved launch area. So with the new access, canoe and kayak access, just curious what you're thinking of doing there with the launch area at the Kiwanis Park. Do you have any ideas what that would entail?
Yeah, I don't think, so part of our thinking is that we make that along the river a more usable, functional part of the park.
Sure, okay.
And then the same on the Boone Lake Park side. The only thing we don't know, at least I don't know, is clearing. I don't know if we can just go and start clearing at the waterfront, or if we have to get some kind of okay from the DNR, or, being along the river there, or Boone Park. So I'm not sure if there's some things that we have to get cleared ahead of time for that, but.
Were you asking about the launch on Boom Lake or the other one? Or the one on the river?
One on the river.
Oh, in the river.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you should check with DNR, make sure
Yeah.
kosher there. But if it's buckthorn, which is our other invasive species, they love to see that stuff disappear anyway. But so again, we just really appreciate it. We're willing to help out as much as you can. I'm new to the head of the parks. Kiwanis Park Committee with Brainerd Kiwanis Club. We had a retirement last year, and he left the club, so I've been trying to come up to speed. But it's really nice to see all your efforts here, so appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
John Forrest, 159 Pineview Drive. I'm with the Brainerd Rotary Club, and I'm co-chairman of the Parks Committee. And I was talking to someone on the park board and just asking what's the status with the parking lot down at Rotary Riverside Park, and they were not able to answer, and they said it's kind of between the park board and the city. So I'm just here kind of trying to give a little push, make sure that's not falling off the radar. In that we would like to see that parking lot move forward as soon as possible. And we're hoping that when the city gets in there, and my understanding the city is going to be engineering a lot of this, and that they can take the whatever topsoil comes off there, because we'd like to do some landscaping around that pavilion at the Rotary Park, and that's been in our plan for this year, is to make sure that landscaping gets done. But we're kind of waiting for the parking lot, and I think there's been a decision made as to what that parking lot's going to look like down there, which is fine. That's a city decision, of course. But I just want to make sure that if the work is being done, and we'd like to see it done as soon as possible, because we'd like to get the topsoil and be able to spread that around the pavilion, and so we can move on with the planting, the landscaping plan for the pavilion. And while we're talking the pavilion, we noticed that we were trying to get picnic tables down there, and Rotary was going to participate in that. And we were told that the Parks Department has their plan as to what they want to use for the picnic tables, and that there would be picnic tables coming to the pavilion. Well, we're getting up to July 4th already, and so far we got 2 picnic tables there. 4 garbage cans, 2 picnic tables, and two outhouses. So we're just hoping that, and I realize that, and what I've heard at the meeting tonight, that picnic tables are, I think someone said they've been ordered, and I think they're here for the Kiwanis Pavilion, and I think the plan was to take the picnic tables from Kiwanis Park to put them at the Rotary Park. I don't know that, but I just want to, once again, make sure that it does not fall off the radar. And also to point out, and I think the city probably is aware of this, Parks Department, someone's been doing some vandalism on that deck that's over the river there, and kicking out the support rails. So I don't know if the Parks Department is aware of that, but they've been chipping away at the rail quite regularly. And so that it's obviously needs to get on the radar and have someone do the repair work that's necessary. And then I'm going to step back and put my Mississippi Landing Trailhead hat on. And I was one of the original members of that committee. I've been with it for 8 years. And we went through the exercise right from the get-go as to what the vision was and what people wanted to see. Well, access to the river was the number one. And also the constant comment was the visibility of the river. And the comment that stuck in my mind all these years is people say, you know, you could cross the Mississippi in Brainerd and be a visitor to Brainerd and not even realize that we have a river here. Well, that's because of the banks, but the other thing is because of the overgrowth of vegetation along the river. At Rotary Riverside Park, we've been very aggressively trying to address the buckthorn down there, and that's a never-ending project, and it will be a never-ending project. But the riverfront in Brainerd is choking with mainly invasive species. Now, there was some discussion earlier tonight about doing that, but I think the city and the Parks Department has to identify opening up and mainly invasive species control along that river. Rotary works at the Conservation Corps, and they seem to be available. And we are working with the Crow Wing Soil and Water Conservation Department. They seem to have funding available for the conservation crew to come into Rotary Park. And they're also part of the group that gets the sheep down at the Rotary, or the goats down at Rotary Park, to help us control the buckthorn. And they will be back this summer, maybe in July. But anyway, I'm just hoping, and once again, I'm here, just kind of here to push and to try to make sure things stay on the radar. But the Parks Department in the city, I think, have to identify the riverfront once again as a wonderful asset that it is. And is really one of the things that makes the city of Brainerd kind of unique to parts of the state of Minnesota anyway. And opening up that riverfront and mainly control of invasive species, I think it's just got to get on the radar. And hopefully using things like Conservation Corps and hopefully city programs that could get done. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Thanks for bringing that stuff up. And we had, Troy, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we had agreed to increase the size of the parking lot, the existing parking lot, Mr. Sandy?
Yeah, it's on our radar. That street department was gonna do that improvement down there.
Okay.
We just been cutting trees for the last month and a half, so,
Right,
a lot of things have fallen by the wayside to keep the streets and parks clean, so.
Is there any kind of timeline that you could expect?
Not at this time, no. I mean, we have to get the parks cleared out, mow down trees yet, and so it's just the storms have really put a hamper on basically everything we've tried to do this summer, so.
In
And
summer this year?
yeah, I mean, I think that's what we agreed to before, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
If I can add, that deck, the observation deck, that was hit by a car. And we did purchase the lumber, and we have the lumber cut, and we have everything we need to fix it, except time right now. So it is on our radar. And we are working on it.
Would you ever want that stained? I realize that the decking itself is plastic, but the wood railings and that, you know, we stained the bench down at the park and the other benches out in the field, the bench along the trail, we keep stained.
Who built that wall? Did you guys?
No, that came, funding.
If you're gonna.
My understanding that they were able to use funding for the construction of that when they achieved funding for the trail through Buffalo Hills Park. That has to be 10, 15 years ago already. The Spurline Trail through Buffalo Hills Park, and there were dollars available within that. And so they're able to use that for the construction of that deck.
Okay, well, the Parks Department. I'm sorry. The Parks Department didn't build it, but we're more than capable of repairing it. So we're gonna just take care of it.
Okay, good.
And as far as, I don't know if it was stained to begin with.
No,
And if
it never was.
wasn't,
Nope.
okay. Well, we're gonna just replace it with what it had on it right now. I'm sure, I mean, it's treated lumber. And that would match what it is. And then if a guy was to stain it, we'd have to look at that later. It's a fairly good size.
I imagine we'll be about every other year for staining of that double seat bench at the Rotary Park as well as the benches along the trail and out in the field.
Sure.
And we're looking at whether it would make any sense to do a fence around the field of seeds that's within the field at Rotary Park. And if you recall, there were 16,000 plants of endangered, threatened, and desirable species planted there 2 years ago. And so, maybe 3 years ago now. And so unfortunately, the flooding this year is going to be setting that project back a little bit. But there's funding available for additional planting, so we hope to do some more planting. And then we're having discussions going on whether a split rail fence around there to just kind of identify where this field of seeds is within the Rotary Park. So, and I also would like to make the offer to send a copy of the park master plan to the city and to the Parks Board. And it's been just completed it was updated just recently. And I'd be happy to send a copy on as long
We'd
as
love
I
to
have
see it.
instructions as to
Yep.
where to send it to.
That's one of the parks that we still have to go through a
Yep.
master plan on, so
Yeah.
we'd love to see what you have already.
Yeah.
And then, Troy, do we have any other picnic tables that can be brought to that pavilion?
For over the 4th? Or for permanent?
Yeah, well, hopefully permanent.
Well, how about just
Yeah.
for the summer, to get through the summer?
If I could ask the question, and Katie, I think you work with the reservations for the pavilions around town, right?
That's mostly Kim Finch, our
Okay.
admin specialist.
Okay, I have no idea what the demand for the pavilion is. I was told that there's some event coming up that they're using both the Kiwanis Park and the Rotary Park, and I don't know what event that is.
Smiles on the Sippy, and that's gonna
Kim,
be
have you had
at the end of
requests?
July.
Have you had requests?
ours.
Katie can
It's our
address
event.
that. She's on that committee, so she can address that.
But I was just kind of hoping we got, what I think is a very nice pavilion, and we'd like to see that it gets used.
It's beautiful pavilion.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other?
Just hanging out? Here for the ride.
Okay. So new to the agenda is board member reports. It's a place if a board member has something they want to bring to the board that's not formal, or that's something you want to talk about, now's your time.
Oh, sorry.
Everybody knows about this. All right.
I do, yeah.
Kara?
Okay. Yes, so I learned that the Lincoln, well, you guys probably all know Lincoln School was going to be torn down. So I reached out to Dave and Jennifer and just said, hey, how about that playground equipment? So back and forth emails and things. And then Troy went over and looked at it and gave I mean, you can probably, since you're here, you can speak to it, but he thought maybe it wasn't going to be the best option for any of our parks. Is that a good way of saying it, Troy?
I didn't say it wasn't the best
Or
option.
maybe it was too old? Is that,
A lot of it wasn't in very good shape.
yes.
Some of it was okay, but, oh, I'm sorry. Some of it was okay, but I've never pulled up old equipment. I know that the concrete on the bottom of them things are immense. They're meant to be that big so they won't move. And I've never tried to move a piece of playground equipment like that.
Okay.
And, they were tearing the building down, and it had to be out, somewhat quickly. And I don't have the equipment or the manpower to do it right now, even if we could save it. And I'm not saying we could, because I'm pretty sure a lot of it would end up bent up by the time we got it out of the ground.
Okay. Well, thank you for looking at it. But then they also, Jennifer shared with me they were going to put it on an auction. So it sounds like somebody could possibly still get it. So at least it will not go to waste, which is a good positive thing. But I was just trying to think of a way to, obviously every park needs a new playground. So I was like, hey, let's try to get a free playground. But didn't quite work. But I just wanted you guys to know. Gave it a shot.
Yeah, thanks, Kara.
Oh, yes, Dave?
Was there any talk about the benches?
Oh, the benches are gone, I believe. I don't know where they went, but they did not tell us where they went. But yes, I did try to get the benches too. But someone must have taken them, so they're at least being used. So that's positive.
Okay, thanks, Kara.
Sure.
Andrew?
We had a booth at Arts in the Park on Sunday in Gregory Park. Big thanks to Kim and Katie for coordinating the resources to get that, and Community Action for having us there. Jennifer sent out all of my notes, so I'll just hit some of the highlights. The splash pad, unsurprisingly, is a huge hit. Just about every kid that I came up to the tent was really excited. They've either been there multiple times or excited to go there. So just roaring success with that. Some of the other things that came up frequently were fishing and disc golf were kind of common themes in the feedback we got. And then...
So wanting more opportunities, more locations to do this is?
Yes, more places to fish. And then either improvements to disc golf at Lum or adding it to new parks. In terms of some specific feedback at parks, so all the feedback in your email is broken out by park. There was some issues with accessibility at Gregory Park, the sidewalk, and then the dirt around the warming house. There were folks on motorized wheelchairs that had trouble navigating that area. I hear someone almost rolled an ankle on a ditch that the washout from the rain created. And then JC's Park, a lot of excitement about some of the changes there. There were a lot of, one person had some serious concerns about the proposed plan there. She said she was a property owner adjacent to the park. Concerns with the parking lot location, adding additional traffic, getting rid of the playgrounds. So just some good feedback there to consider as we look at some of the funds. And then I know we had talked about using the Harrison playground, and she had some comments that Oak Street is too busy for most parents to feel comfortable sending their kids across. So something to kind of look at. I know we had thought that was maybe a good option when we were talking. And then there was a ton of feedback about Lum. That was great to see. People excited about the ski loon shows. A couple notes about disc golf there. The tee boxes are not in great shape. They tend to get muddy. There's some regulations about the size of a tee box from the disc golf governing body. You can actually just kind of put like a pile of wood chips in a timber box, and that is a valid surface. So it could be a low cost improvement to the experience there. And then several folks asked for tent camping at Lum without needing an RV. But that was an appealing option to expand camping revenue. Again, without really any cost to us. We already have the facilities there. So yeah, there's more in the notes, but everyone, almost all positive feedback, and just lots of people excited about the parks.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for doing that. Thanks, Kim and Katie. Kevin, you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quickly, I frequent a couple parks like pretty much on a daily basis. I've been watching Gregory quite a bit, and we're continuing to see kind of some parking issues down there. But I think we'll come up with a plan. We'll get through this, but we're still getting people to park in and parking inside, right? Not only on the parking lot, but driving right up next to the warming house, either just to use the bathroom and drive out. We're seeing that, but so something's still there. But and then I've also been watching Memorial pretty much on a daily basis, and I can tell you that Memorial is. It is a flurry of activity over there on not only the splash pads, but the main rink and the smaller rink also. So just kudos to everyone who's worked on that. So it sure looks like we got a hit over there. We've also got, we turned that into a water swimming, all kinds of water sport mecca, because I also tend to see kids in the ponds pretty much every time that I'm there. So we might want to think about that a little bit as well. But hey, they're in our parks. So
to be fair, that pond has been there for years. So
Right.
we did not create that with the splash pad. I do
That's
not
true.
want that rumor.
Yeah, but it's now just clean, or at least not weeds all the way, from what it used to be. But anyway, exactly. But so something to think about there. But and the only other thing I'd like to say is just, hey, thanks to all the city staff for continuing to work on the trees. There was a lot down, and there is a noticeable difference in the damage that's been done and the cleanup that's already been done. Obviously, it's a monumental task. I had just one tree down, and it was a gigantic task. And so thanks to the staff for continuing to work on that. Obviously, you got ways to go, but all positive thoughts, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I had something, but I lost it, so. And it's 5:30.
Oh, Kevin, did you see the tent in Gregory yesterday?
I did. Yep. It was a reading tent, I was told.
Oh.
A reading tent.
Pitched a tent by the tennis courts. I was like, oh, reading tent.
So let's move on to staff reports.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I will keep this quick. I just listed off some of the two events that happened. Splash Pad grand opening, big success. Mississippi Landing Trailhead Park, groundbreaking. Also really great to see that many people come together and for the beginning of that. Recreation, community ed, YMCA youth programming is going smoothly despite some of the damage to the parks. We're working on different plans to get them going and ready to go for that after all the storm damage. Destruction of the Field 1 backstop at Memorial Park has been a scheduling situation for me for adult softball, but we're getting through it. we have been aware of the swimming in the holding ponds by the splash pad, and we do plan on getting signage made saying no swimming to put by.
Katie,
yes.
if I may,
Yes.
just put a sign that says urination pool. Might stop them from swimming in there.
Raw sewage.
Yeah,
Sorry
we'll
to
try and
interrupt.
keep it professional, yeah. So that's in the works. Concessions, that's been kind of a big thing the past few weeks for me, just for during the week, shuffling product to get it ready for the tournaments on the weekends. And something to note, like Andrew Scheib mentioned, after selling at Mills Field for the 14U tournament, we opened that back awning, and that's a good opportunity in the future if we do improve that concession stand, that we can sell to those splash pad goers. It's it's an easy sell for ice cream. So that's all I'm gonna note for. I'm just gonna skip through some of the other notes I had. So that's all I'm gonna mention. Troy, did you want to say anything about maintenance? Okay, well, I'll just mention that we are doing our best not to fall behind on routine maintenance but due to the store damage, but there's certain safety things we have to take care of before some of our routines. So there's a large, lofty list of things that have been accomplished the past month by the maintenance department.
I have a question about the splash pad.
Sure.
That you guys already had to replace the pump. Like, was that under warranty, or how did that work? It's been on for a while.
It should be. We'll be checking on it,
Okay.
on getting our money back, because that actual pump should have lasted for years.
Right, that seemed like such a bummer.
Yeah, it's working extra hard right now, trying to drain all that extra water that's coming through it, but it should be able to handle it.
Right.
So I'm guessing we just got a bad pump. So we got a new one, and we'll be looking at getting the other one warranted.
Yeah.
How much was the new one?
Oh, I don't know, Kim, did you?
I want to say about $1,100. Is that the one for the pond?
That's the one for the ponds. We lost one in the Gregory fountain too, and that one was.
Splash pad one. I don't know.
Yeah, it was over $1,000. I'm guessing, and then we had to have the plumber install it. And
Yeah.
we had a few issues with the first one, but
Yeah, it's just a bummer.
so far so good on the latest one. So
And then there was a leak underground too at the splash pad.
yes, I have contacted the contractor that put it in, and he'll be coming up to look at it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a serious leak right now, but that should all be warranted too.
Okay, cool. That's what I was most concerned about. Okay. Thank you.
There is just one little thing also. Myself, Mayor Bedeau, and Troy Rushmeyer were part of our all-star game for Pony, as well as the youth softball, just coordinating that. And I think there was a $100 request for us to pay that for general rental for the music or the amp at the Mills Field for that sporting event. Would we be in favor of spending that money?
Yeah, so it's a great event. It's one they had 55 years. There's been all-star games in Brainerd. So Community Ed is continuing that, and for youth girls softball as well, to have the Baseball Association has a speaker system that they could bring there and set up. But there is Music General has a system that plugs right into Mills Park that can be used up, and it was put in for when they had the amateur teams playing there. So we're just requesting that the parks pay $100 to rent this for the night. It's gonna be a night game, 7:30 next Wednesday. They're gonna do the field up nice and have announcers, and Mayor Bedeau's gonna throw out the first pitch. And
Attempt to throw out the first pitch. We know how that went last year.
Better be on the mound too. None of this stands
No, that was the problem last year. That's why it was so terrible. If I can make one comment about the money that's being requested, specifically, community ed is willing to participate in the all-star games, but that is not something that they traditionally do. So this is our all-star game that we are looking to continue. So the reason why the request is being made is that it's not something that would be a part of their contract. They're willing to send the kids to our event.
For both events.
You need a motion on that?
Just general consensus is fine.
Just say,
Seems great.
Sounds good,
go for it.
as long as it's good music.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, so. Should be a lot of fun. Come and watch the mayor throw out the first pitch. Apparently last year it only went like a few feet.
No, it went more than a few feet, but it went into the grass. And if you know anything about a baseball field, there is not grass around home plate.
More of a sliding athlete.
So it should be interesting. Okay, thank you, guys. I think that leaves us to adjourn to our
Mr.
meeting
Chair?
tomorrow night, right? Oh,
You might want an update on the Public Works Director, City Engineer.
Yes, please.
So, as you know, the City Council appointed a work group, Councilman Johnson and Councilman O'Day. We received 4 applications for the City Engineer, Public Works Director. 2 were interviewed, and Kevin Yeager also sat in on the interview panel. 2 excellent candidates, and at the end of the day, the work group did narrow down on 1 candidate. His name is Jesse Dean. He currently works as an assistant city engineer for the city of Marshall. This will be on the council agenda on July 5th for their consideration. If the council approves that, Jesse's intent is to provide notice to the city of Marshall. The city of Marshall does require a 30-day notice, and so we are very hopeful that he will be starting beginning to middle part of August. So we look forward to having that position replaced. I know there's a lot of projects you guys are working on as a park board, so he, I think, will hit the ground running on those projects among many others. So we are very excited.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good news. Okay, now, I believe we could need a motion to adjourn to tomorrow's 4:30 meeting.
So moved, Jaeger.
Second shape.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.